Friday, Donald Trump posted, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings." How dare you, sir? Would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism? Go yourself.
Every president has a 3 a.m. for most. It is a crisis, a phone call from the Pentagon, a natural disaster, a moment that demands the full weight of the office in the middle of the night when the country is sleeping and the leader is not. Donald Trump has a different kind of 3 a.m. His involves a phone, a social media app, and whatever is burning through his mind after the cable news stops and the advisors go home and nobody is left to say, maybe don't post that.
It sunk in that they're killing off our show, but they made one mistake. They left me alive.
Stephen Colbert decided the country should hear what that sounds like. Not summarized, not paraphrased, not filtered through commentary or comedy or cable news chyrons. Just the words read aloud in a silent room by a man who, for one night, decided that the most devastating thing he could do was absolutely nothing. Which country are you watching this from right now? Drop it in the comments, because what happened in that studio traveled to every corner of the internet by morning, and it traveled in silence.
I can finally speak unvarnished truth to power and say what I really think about Donald Trump.
The Late Show audience filed in expecting the usual energy, band warm-up, applause sign, the familiar rhythm of monologue, punchline, guest, repeat. What they walked into was darkness. No band, no music, no applause cue. The stage lights were low. The desk was bare except for a phone and a stack of printed pages. When Colbert walked out, he didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't acknowledge the tentative applause that started, and then stopped when the audience realized he wasn't meeting it. He sat down, put on his reading glasses, and said 5 words. These are from last week. This is narrative analysis, built entirely around real, publicly posted statements on public platforms, attributed to public figures, told as a story, because the format of the delivery revealed something the content alone never could.
In 1993, Trump reportedly hosted a party at Mar-a-Lago for young women in a so-called calendar girl competition, and Epstein was the only other guest. Okay. That's not right. If there's only one person invited, that's not a party.
He picked up the first page, and he read. The first post was about a journalist. Trump called her a lowlife and a disgrace to the profession. He questioned her intelligence. He questioned her loyalty to America. He said she should be looked into. The words, read in Colbert's calm, measured voice, in a completely silent studio, didn't sound like a president expressing frustration. They sounded like a threat. The audience didn't laugh. Nobody moved. Colbert set the page down, picked up the second. This one was about a federal judge who had ruled against the administration. Trump called the decision criminal. He called the judge out of control. He said the ruling was an act of war against the American people, an act of war from a judge applying the law. Colbert didn't react, didn't raise an eyebrow, didn't pause for effect. He set the page down and picked up the third. This one was about a Republican senator, a member of Trump's own party, who had questioned a budget decision. Trump called him weak, pathetic, and a traitor to the movement. He said the senator would pay a price. 3 posts, 3 targets, 3 people, a journalist, a judge, an ally, described in language that, if spoken by anyone without presidential immunity, would trigger an investigation. Colbert kept reading. If you are watching this and you want to understand why silence became the most powerful weapon on television that night, subscribe and hit that like button, because the next 5 posts are the ones that changed the temperature of the room permanently. Post 4 targeted a university. Trump said it should lose its funding because a professor criticized his economic policy. He said the school was indoctrinating students against America. Post 5 targeted a specific media company. He said its broadcast license should be reviewed. He used the phrase enemy of the people, a phrase with historical echoes that made several audience members visibly flinch. Post 6 was personal, about a former cabinet member who had written a book. Trump called him a gutless coward and said he wouldn't last 10 seconds in a real fight. At 3 a.m., about a man who had served in the military for 30 years. Post 7 attacked a civil rights organization. Post 8 attacked a foreign ally. By the 8th post, the studio was so quiet that the ventilation hum was audible through the broadcast microphones. The audience wasn't processing comedy, they were processing volume. The sheer, relentless, unfiltered volume of hostility that pours out of one man's phone between midnight and dawn while the country sleeps. Colbert set the last page down, removed his glasses, and looked into the camera. He didn't deliver a punchline. He didn't editorialize. He said one sentence. That was 1 week. 3 words. And the audience finally made a sound. Not laughter, not applause. Something closer to an exhale. The collective release of a room full of people who had just listened to the unfiltered interior of a president's mind and realized that what lives inside that mind at 3 a.m. is not strategy. It is not governance. It is not leadership. It is a list of enemies written in the dark by a man who cannot sleep unless he makes sure someone else can't either. Colbert stood up. He didn't thank the audience. He didn't tease the next segment. He walked off stage, leaving the stack of printed posts on the desk, under the lights in front of the cameras. The posts stayed on screen for 7 seconds, just sitting there. Unread now, but present, the way they're always present on millions of phones. Every morning, normalized into the daily scroll, stripped of their weight by the speed of the feed. Colbert's experiment proved one thing. When you slow those words down, when you read them at human speed, in a human voice, in a room full of humans, they don't sound presidential. They don't sound strategic. They don't sound strong. They sound like a man alone in the dark. At 3 a.m., afraid of something he can never name, and attacking everything he can, Trump posted about the segment the next morning. At 4 a.m., he called Colbert unwatchable. He called the show dead. He said nobody cares. He posted at 4 a.m. that nobody cares. And the internet saved that post too, because it was the 9th page, the one Colbert didn't even need to read. Subscribe to the narrative brief and turn on notifications. He didn't add a single word. He didn't need to. The words were already there. We just slowed them down.